Hey there, welcome to another video from Hegarty Maths. It's Mr. Hegarty here. In this video we're learning about straight line graphs again. It's our 5th video on that topic. So I want to start by asking you some things that you should already know. If a straight line is in the form y equals mx plus c, can you tell me what m means and what c means? Well, you should know m is the gradient and c is the y-intercept. So the value of y when x is 0. That is crucial that you know that, and we're going to rely on that knowledge. Next, I asked you in the last video to draw graphs like things like that. When you have to draw graphs like things like that, you should be able to do that now, and I want you to pause the video and I want you to draw the graph using the form y equals mx plus c. Well, m was 2, c was -3, so the gradient is 2 and the y-intercept is 0, -3. So start at 0, -3, and using the gradient of 2 means as you go right 1 you go up 2, as you go right 1 you go up 2, as you go right 1 you go up 2, and so on. And you have yourself your straight line like that, which you can just continue onwards here. And at the end, just state what the straight line is. It's y is equal to 2x subtract 3, and you're done. Now, this is the type of thing we're going to do in this particular skill. Let me wind that down. If someone asked you to draw the graph y subtract 2x is equal to -3, what would your thoughts be? Well, my first thought is it's not in the form y is equal to mx plus c. We need y on its own on the left hand side being the subject of that formula. So we'd have to rearrange it, wouldn't we? How could we sort of remove that subtract 2x? Well, we would add 2x to both sides, wouldn't we? And if we added 2x to both sides, we would have what we want on the left, y, and on the right we would have positive 2x, which I just write as 2x, and you still have your -3 or subtract 3. And oh look, that is exactly the same as the line we've just drawn. Okay, this here is just this one rearranged. So when you get an equation of a line not in the form y equals mx plus c, you will need to rearrange it to make y what we call the subject of that formula, and put it in the form y equals mx plus c, and then use your old knowledge about m and your old knowledge about c to be able to draw the graph. Right, that's exactly what we're going to do. Let's start with some examples. If you feel like you can do these, pause the video and go ahead. For each of these, I want you to state the gradient and the y-intercept for each of the straight line graphs. We always have to have it in the form y equals mx plus c. Okay, so therefore this here we need to undo this, take away 4x, and we need to add 4x to both sides and do a rearrangement so that we have y as the subject of the formula, and we're going to get ourselves y is therefore positive 4x, we just write like that, take away 2. The gradient therefore m is going to be 4, c is going to be -2, which tells us that the gradient is 4 and the y-intercept, I'll just put y-intercept like this, is going to be 0, -2, and we've stated what we have required. What about this one? Well, I've got add 2x here. Y add 2x is equal to 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 2x off both sides, right? In order to make y the subject. And therefore I'm going to get y is equal to -2x, and that 5, you can think of it as positive 5, like that. Therefore m in this case is -2, and c is going to be 5. So we can state that the gradient is -2, and the y-intercept is going to be 0, 5, and we're done. Right, try some more. Pause the video, have a go. Okay, I need them in the form, remember, y equals mx plus c, y on its own. So we've got take away 4x here. Let's add 4x to both sides to remove that first of all. Now what would we be left with on the left hand side? Well, we've got actually 2y, not just y, be careful. And here we would therefore have 4x take away 2. Now, how are we going to remove that multiplying by 2, 2y? To undo that, I'm going to divide both sides by 2. Okay, and so I can therefore state that y, 2y divided by 2, obviously it just cancels that factor of 2 on the numerator and denominator. So y is therefore going to equal Now 4x, we can divide that by 2 separately and get 2x, and negative 2 we divided by 2 is negative 1. So we have m is equal to 2, so the gradient is 2, and we have that c is equal to negative 1, so our y-intercept is going to be 0, negative 1, and we're done. Same here, I'm sure you're getting the idea. So firstly, to undo that add 2x, I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. That's going to leave me not just with y on the left hand side, but it's going to leave me with 3y is equal to negative 2x add 5. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So this leaves me on the left with y. Now I can write that as negative 2/3 x. I'm dividing negative 2x by 3, so that's negative 2/3. I can just do the numbers divided by each other. Negative 2 divided by 3 is negative 2/3. And then the other side of things, I can say add 5 over 3. That's when I take the 5 separately, the positive 5, and I divide it by the 3 and get 5 over 3 there. Now it's in the form that I want. It's in the form y equals mx plus c, and m here is negative 2/3, so the gradient is negative 2/3, and c is equal to 5/3, so the y-intercept goes through 0, 5/3, and we're done. Next one, pause, have a go. Right, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. That gives me that 2y is going to be negative 2x add 4. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 2, dividing everything on the right by 2 separately. Gets me y here. Now negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1x, and positive 4 divided by 2 is positive 2. Therefore m is negative 1, so the gradient is negative 1, and c is positive 2, so the y-intercept is 0, 2, and we're done. This one here, same old stuff, but I'm going to take away 2 from both sides to start with to undo that add 2. That leaves me with 3y on the left is going to equal 5x subtract 2. I'm going to divide both sides by 3 to get y on its own isolated on the left hand side. So this is y is going to be, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the 5 divided by the 3, which is 5/3, so I'm going to write 5/3 x, and separately I'm going to do negative 2 divided by 3, which is going to give me negative 2/3. So m is therefore 5/3, so the gradient is 5/3, and c is negative 2/3, so the y-intercept is negative 2/3, 0, and we're done. Okay, let's do another one, even slightly more complicated. Now why is this more complicated? Well, I've got to remove that add 6x and remove that add 10, so I've got to do two things. So let's subtract 6x from both sides, let's subtract 10 from both sides in order to remove both of those. That leaves me on the left hand side just with 5y is going to equal negative 6x subtract 10. Let's divide both sides by 5, and I'm going to get myself y is equal to, well, I'm going to do negative 6 divided by 5, and that's negative 6/5 x, and I've got negative 10 divided by 5, which is subtract 2, or negative 2. So m in this case is negative 6/5, so that's what the gradient is. The gradient is negative 6/5, and the c here is negative 2, so the y-intercept must be 0, negative 2, and we're done. Now the last thing we could do is I could ask you to draw something like that. Okay, and what you could do is you could rearrange it into the form y equals mx plus c and then use that to draw it. So if you want to go and do that, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, I'll go through now. So I'm going to say 3y subtract 15 subtract 12x is equal to 0. I'm going to undo that subtract 15 by adding 15. I'm going to undo that subtract 12x by adding 12x to both sides. That leaves me with, on the left hand side, 3y, and on the right hand side I'm going to get myself 12x add 15. I'm going to divide both sides by 3, and I'm going to get that y is 4x add 5. This is easy for me to draw because the gradient is 4 and the y-intercept is 5, 0, 5. So I'm going to start at 0, 5. As I go across 1, I go up 4. And similarly to that, the opposite of going across to the right one and up 4 is going to the left one and down 4. So I'm going to do that as well, just to get myself 3 points. And there you go. I drew that line fairly easily, without much hassle, with a bit of algebra, a bit of rearranging, but using y equals mx plus c. And label it here, that's 3y, subtract 15, subtract 12x is equal to 0, and we're done. And that's it for this skill. Thanks for watching.